What is going on? Welcome, Yo Bro Nation. I have no clue where the music is right now because I can't hear it. Welcome to Retro Rewind episode, I think, 3 or 4. Welcome to Retro Rewind, the new look. What a rewind we had today. God, that sounds so cheesy. Welcome, everyone. I am Zach. How are you guys doing today? Wow. It's amazing how quickly my CPU usage can go up just from clicking a song. That's kind of amazing, actually. Welcome, guys, to Retro Rewind. I am, of course, Zach. Welcome back to the channel. Lots to go over today. First of all, regarding the channel, as well as the WCW nWo Sold Out 1998 review. I apologize for the light. It is a beautiful day outside, so there's a lot of natural light hitting me today. I don't even have to turn on any of the lights inside the studio today. But, so, WCW nWo 1998. You know, that was one of those shows. Like, really, when I'm thinking about it, and I go back, checking all my audios, yeah, everything's working. You know, when I go back and I watched it, I just finished it a few minutes ago. You know, it is, to me, one of the more underrated pay-per-views I think that we had in WCW. I mean, for having very few championships on the line, no United States Championship match, no Tag Team Championship match, no World Championship match, but it had a lot of good matches. But the main event was a stinker. Obviously, I'll get to that. Obviously, I will give you guys my thoughts and my opinions on all of the matchups. But it was a good show, and it had a nice little story inside the show that would lead to Super Brawl and on into Uncensored and stuff like that afterwards. But before I get into any of that, I have a lot of stuff that I have to cover. So it's trying to get everything where I have to have it. So let's go over some channel stuff. First off, if you're not already, you should be. But y'all should go ahead and check out our Patreon page. All right, patreon.com/YoBroNation. You guys can join the nation. There's 6 tiers to choose from. You guys can be a producer, an executive producer of the channel. You'll get exclusive AEW coverage, exclusive access into the Discord chat by being an executive producer or a producer. You also get to be monitors and VIPs of those chats as well. There's also some other exclusive content, behind-the-scene vlogs, which I'll have next week. My first one will be uploaded, I believe, by next Tuesday. Not this one coming, but the following. Because I'm doing some fun stuff this week with the girlfriend, and so we're going to kind of record that, so that should be pretty fun. And there's a lot of other stuff, like there's other tiers. You guys get free gifts, exclusive Monday morning creative, and other stuff. I should probably actually keep everything in front of me, because I can never remember everything I put on the Patreon. But despite all that, if a Patreon isn't what you want, and like I said, go check it out. I may sound stupid trying to explain it to you, but if you guys go, check out the Monday, check out the Patreon. Go on there and check it out. You'll like some of what's on there, and you might find something on there that you think is worth it, okay? And just go check it out. But just in case, for whatever reason, you guys aren't really looking into that, and that's not what you want, it's okay. I got you covered. TeePublic.com/YoBroNation1. You guys can go on there. A lot of exclusive t-shirts that are only for the channel. You got the classic Yo Bro Gaming and Reviews t-shirt. I'm half tempted to actually purchase that shirt, probably today. But there's the old school Yo Bro Nation Recess Never Gets Old t-shirt, the Charlotte Rain shirt, the Kissing Bandit shirt, which is still to this day my favorite. And there's the Yo Bro Nation new t-shirt. You guys can go on there, buy our merch. all that stuff's on there. I did not press that yet. That's not what you guys are supposed to be seeing yet. Oh my gosh, there's so much I have to go over. But okay, you guys got a glimpse of something that's going to happen. Okay, so yeah, okay, there we go. So there is stuff going on the channel. Some changes that I thought needed to be done. One, for sake of spending time with my girlfriend and actually sleeping in bed with her while she's sleeping. That's one thing. Number two, just so I get sleep. Okay, first of all, Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live. I didn't do SmackDown this week. I just watched SmackDown and enjoyed SmackDown for what it was. But I'm not stopping those reviews, okay? What I decided to do over the course of the last couple of days is I decided, while it may hit my views a little bit, but eventually it'll catch on. This is a programming note for everyone. Monday Night Raw will be live. It will still be live reviews. I will do live reviews of those on Tuesday morning, and Wednesday morning will be my live reviews for SmackDown Live. Those will go up anywhere between 7 and 8 a.m. will be the start time. About an hour's worth of time I'll do on those. So I'll still be doing them. I put a lot of work into the covers and then the intro vids and stuff. I might as well just do it. But I won't be doing the night of, just for my sanity, just for my own personal way, just so I can sleep, okay? Just so I can sleep. Now, I am going to put some things in their place, which I'm about to go over. Everything coming up starting this week and into next week. So, the first thing is, this is the Patreon exclusive, first of all, okay? Monday Morning Creative. That looks so silly. That will be an exclusive Patreon Monday morning thing. It starts this Monday. My girlfriend sleeps in on Monday, so during the time that she's sleeping, I will be sitting here with a cup of coffee. I will be talking to you guys. Episode 1 is going to go up this week. Those will all be up, okay? But I'll be sitting here. We'll talk a little bit about some of the bigger things, that happened during the week. And I'll just basically over what would I do to change them? What would I change it? It's kind of like a Monday morning quarterback show where they talk about what happened and how the offenses should have ran. Well, I'm going to go over all the things that I would do as far as, fixing WWE. You see a writer's room. Obviously, what would I do as a writer? I'm not sure if this is going to be a live show yet. I'm hoping it will be, but that really depends on how well Patreon will allow me, if I can use OBS, and how well the stream works. Otherwise, I'll probably just record it. It's going to be a podcast. You won't actually see my face. This is just going to be a nice little podcast, Monday morning, maybe 30 minutes long, and it'll be exclusive to Patreon. Now, Monday nights, there will be no Monday Night Raw. Naturally, okay? So, because of that, also, real quick, before I jump into that, if you do watch the WWE 2K19 videos, first off, Monday Night Raw on Wednesday went up, and SmackDown is also up. So the first episode of those two, episodes 2 and 3, are up. Those shows will be pushed back to, afternoon time frames for me to upload those, between 3 and 4, because of the change with my reviews for Raw and SmackDown. Those have been changed. You'll see it up on the channel. As long as you're, get the notification bell hit, you'll know everything. But in replace of SmackDown, starting this week, will be the Monday Night Raw Classics. This will be the reviews of all the old Monday Night Raws, starting with 1996, and I will go on every week until I guess I hit into the early 2000s. That's basically how that's going to work, or however long, but there'll be one of those every Monday night. As soon as Raw goes off the air, within 5 minutes, this will be uploaded to the channel, and you guys will be able to watch it. That will be my replacement for Monday Night Raw reviews on Mondays. this is the one thing I think I've been looking forward to more than anything on the channel, because I just, obviously I love the older shows a lot. So for me, doing this is one of those things that I really, 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 really wanted to do. Now, Tuesday nights. I don't know if it's going to start this week. Most likely, definitely next week. But Yo Bro Nation, the podcast, is back. If you don't know what that is, Yo Bro Nation podcast is just when me and another individual kind of sit down and we just talk random shit. There is no set grounds, I guess, on what we have to talk about. It's just whatever we feel like we want to talk about. We basically go over topics of the world, movies, music, sports. Super Bowl's coming up, so I really am hoping I do get to do this before the Super Bowl, so I can kind of get my opinions out. But it will be up on a Tuesday, probably not live, because that's the whole point of me not doing Tuesday nights. But this will go up immediately after SmackDown every Tuesday. You guys will be able to go watch it. So now, with that being said, I'm pretty sure I'm sure it's going to be on Fridays, because I'll have the SmackDown 2K19 game up on Thursdays. So probably starting on Fridays. Now, Yo Bro Nation might not also be every week. It may be every other week. It just depends on who I can get as guests, when I can get them as guests, just so you guys know. Something I do want to do every week. Now, who has ever watched ESPN's First Take? ESPN has this show called First Take that I really like, and I like the feel how they debate topics of wrestling, backstage news and everything. Now, I do keep up with all that stuff. I do check. I haven't subscribed to a few things. So, what I decided to do is take what you all remember as Squared Circle, the news show that I did, and I'm taking it and turning it into a podcast, a visual podcast, with me and someone else. It doesn't matter who, where we're going to sit and we're going to debate topics, whether we agree with it, disagree with it, whether we think it's true or not, stuff of that nature. Just whatever it goes. It's going to be about a 45-minute podcast with about 4 or 5 subjects that we'll debate about 10 minutes each. And that will be up on Fridays. It will be pre-taped, but it will be up on Fridays. Most likely every week, maybe every other week. Just like I said, it depends on guests and when I can get them. But don't expect it every week. But you're definitely going to get it at least every other. Now, you guys did see the tease. Next week is Best of the Best Countdown, which is going to end up being the top 10 women in wrestling throughout the eternity of professional wrestling. Well, in addition to that, starting next Sunday, this can be every Sunday leading up to the week before WrestleMania, I'm doing the Best of the Best Countdown, top 10 WrestleMania shows. My top 10 favorite WrestleManias. There'll be 2 next week, 2 the following week, and then 1 every subsequent week following that. So you'll get, 10 of these in 8 weeks, each counting down my top 10 WrestleManias. They may not be yours, but that's when you can go into the comments. You can tell me whether you agree or you disagree, stuff of that nature. But that's the beauty of it. That's, what I'm wanting to do. So it's a kind of like a retro rewind, but with a countdown. So I'm just sticking with the best of the best, retro, whatever. But that's what that's going to be. Those will start next week. All that stuff's coming this week and into next week. Most likely the Yo Bro Nation podcast will be next week. But that's the programming notes for everyone, so you guys know what I have going on. Raw, SmackDown, all that goodness. So let's go ahead. Let's get into this sold out show. I'm already 15 minutes in, and I haven't even talked about the show really once. Let me get a drink. All right, so WCW nWo's Snickers Sold Out was live Saturday, January 24th, 1998. It came on the day before the Super Bowl. They didn't want to compete with the Super Bowl. And it took place in Dayton, Ohio at the Hera Arena. It was on a Saturday. Now, the intro to this was kind of cool. It was Eric Bischoff in this real scary place, and they were playing sound clips from, previous episodes with things that went on with, like, Kevin Nash and the Giant, Lex Luger, so on and so forth, and then Eric Bischoff, would cut a little thing to sound creepy. That was the intro. Tony Schiavone, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Dusty Rhodes were all on commentary. Mike Tenay would pop in during the cruiserweight matches, and then would eventually, later on in the show, would come on and do full-on commentary for everyone, and that's basically how that went with him. The show kicked off with a 8-man Lucha Libre match, which was crazy and hard to keep track of, and had my head spinning. It was a very difficult show to keep track of, to say the least. But it was Super Calo, Juventud Guerrera, Chavo Guerrero Jr., Liz Mark Jr. versus La Parka, Silver King, Psychosis, and El Dandy. Like I said, this was a Lucha Libre 8-man tag. It was nuts. This whole thing was just nuts. Fast-paced action. Tags were pretty much just non-existent in this show, especially once you got towards the end. The most impressive guys in this match were probably Chavo, what little you got to see him, and Juventud Guerrero, who this was pre-Juvi losing the mask. Once you got towards the end, men just were coming in and out of the ring at will. There was no tag system, and they would say, if a member of a team was to go out the outside, the next member could just jump in the ring and continue the match. It was weird. Lots of false finishes. Psychosis a couple times hitting these big power moves. Should have ended it, but they never did. Juvi hitting his 450 splash. That not ending it. You get towards the end. All of them start jumping over the ropes. Juvi, doing his thing. El Dandy and all of them. Suicide dives. Topes and just all this Lucha Libre moves that I don't know the names for everything. The last two guys left in the ring were Chavo and Psychosis. Chavo and him fought for a little bit. Chavo ends up hitting his Tornado DDT, got the 3 count. After the match, La Parka lays out the opposing team, starts celebrating with his little, they did call him the chairman of WCW, and I loved La Parka. And then from there, he attacked his own partner, stood on the chair, dancing by himself. So basically, La Parka saying, I don't need nobody, I am my own man, etc., etc. We had an ad, and I wrote this down only because I thought about the WWE Network, how it's exclusive on the the internet to watch the pay-per-views. They do exclusives and stuff like that. WCW did it first. As far as my research showed, they did a show called Boston Brawl at the Fleet Center in Boston, Massachusetts. It was the first ever exclusive internet show. They pushed it a couple times during this, it was on WCW's website, and it was only exclusive to the website, not aired on television, not a pay-per-view, just on the internet. So, if you're looking at iPay-per-views or exclusive access or stuff like that, type of stuff, they were the ones who did it first. Next match was Anything Goes. It was Raven with the Flock versus Chris Benoit. Well, the Flock got barred from ringside. Raven cut a quick promo talking about, he's used to this, trying to be forced to be conformed. He's used to being left alone, especially as a child. He had no friends, and said that he was not going to feel Chris Benoit's pain, but rather he was going to feast on it. Well, Chris Benoit, he comes out. He'd been dealing with the Flock for months on end. Saturn and everyone just constantly, harassing him and attacking him. Raven goes for Benoit right away in the IY. This was a really good match. These guys, it was a brawl, not so much of a wrestling match. Raven's whole thing when he was in WCW was he never wrestled a regular match. It was always Raven's rules or some sort of no disqualification match. That's just what Raven did. Excuse me. I'm not feeling great, guys. I've been fighting a cold. It's another reason I kind of skipped SmackDown. But Raven had full control most of this match. Benoit definitely was playing catch-up in this match. Chris Benoit gets hit with the chair a few times, Benoit starts making his comeback. He, drop toe holds Raven's face onto the chair. Starts doing these, rips the shirt off of Raven. Starts giving these stiff knife edge chops. Some real nice ones. You could hear them. Raven trying to escape. Benoit chased him down. Got him back in the ring. Used the chair on Raven. Kicked him in the head with it. And then did a diving headbutt. Tried going for the cover. Didn't work. They brawl a little bit more. Chris Benoit gets in the ring, hits up the crossface. Raven, and rather than tapping, and I like the way that they especially with the way they did this finish, Chris Benoit makes Raven pass out, because Raven's just sitting there. He's in the crossface, and he's smiling and laughing, and passes out. As soon as that's over, here comes Kidman to get in the ring to go to attack Benoit. Dean Malenko comes in the ring, cuts him off. Then here comes the rest of the flock. They fight the flock off, and they are the two left standing tall. And they're, commentary team, kudos to them. Well, why? Why didn't Dean Malenko come out here? What is Dean Malenko's reasoning? Trying to build a story as to why Dean Malenko. Of course, this is what set the seeds for what would eventually become the Four Horsemen with Flair and Anderson, Malenko, Benoit. So... and Mongo. Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Chris Jericho. Yeah, I'm flying through some of this stuff because, a lot happened in WCW at this time, and the focus of it was around the World Championship and everything. So, but I liked the match. It was a good match, and if I were to grade that match, I'd probably give that match probably out on a scale of 1 to 10. I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. It was a really good match. This match, however, was not the best Rey Mysterio Jr. match I've ever seen. Rey Mysterio Jr., who is, yes, Rey Mysterio, versus Chris Jericho for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. Mike Tenay, again, was on commentary. The story of this was Rey's knees. Rey had a bum knee, and Rey's knee was pretty hurt. Jericho working a slow pace, working the knee, was able to keep things in control. Rey, fighting through the match with his leg. I mean, there was some good, nice high fly aerial offense in this match, which isn't a surprise. But it caught up with Rey doing one too many moves. Jericho able to catch him and put him in the Lion Tamer. And Rey eventually had to tap out. Rey just sold the shit out of his knee. Jericho decides to cut a promo. Says, "I knew it, you really, really like me." And the crowd's still booing him at this point. And he's like, "Don't boo me. Don't you boo me." This was Jericho's whiny phase when he really started his heel gimmick in WCW, which is one of Jericho's best heel gimmicks. He says, "Fine, you want to boo me? I'll give you a reason to boo me." And he kicks Mysterio, takes his leg brace off, starts beating him with it, kicking him, throwing him into the steel steps, takes a production case and rolls that into Rey's knee and really digs after Rey Mysterio. And, Tony Schiavone, this is one of the most heinous attacks I've ever seen. Like, Tony Schiavone is so good. He was so underrated. Everyone always talks about Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler being the best announced team during the Attitude Era that for WCW and WWF. But Tony Schiavone was really good at his job. And him and Bobby Heenan, especially when you got later in the night after something happened with Dusty, they were just really great. Like, had a really good connection with each other. I'm sorry. Tony Schiavone is one of the best announcers. Yes, he's very old school with how he calls things. Even when watching MLW, he's very old school in his approach and very old school in how he likes to call things. But that's what I like. That's one of the reasons I think I watch MLW is because Tony's calling the matches. It's what I like. I like to hear that. So we get to Mean Gene Okerlund, rest in peace again, Mean Gene, interviewing another man who I believe he did pass away, J.J. Dillon. J.J., of course, being the commissioner of WCW at this time. They talk about the events at the ending of Starrcade. Of course, Starrcade, Sting faced Hollywood Hogan for the WCW Championship. It was supposed to go one way with Hogan, getting a fast count, but instead Hogan lobbied for a regular count. and got that instead, or it was Nick Patrick messed up. I don't remember how it was, but it's supposed to be this controversial, oh, Hogan cheated, Sting with they tried to still play off as the fast count, but when you watch it back, it was a regular count. It was this big kerfuffle. Anyways, then Bret Hart comes out. They tried to reinvent the Montreal Screwjob as Bret's coming into the company. So Bret comes in, restarts the match, and then Sting wins and becomes the champion. And I think the next Nitro or that Thunder, they strip Sting of the title. Anyways, he talks about that and the state of the championship being vacant. Says that that they've been really taking their time, trying to decide what they're going to do with the championship, even going with people outside of the executive committee to make the right decision. I.e. Roddy Piper, and who was the interim general manager at the time and who had made the match. So Piper comes out, says that he feels responsible because he made the match. And what he says tonight is going to stick, and it's going to be Piper's Law. So he says, he knows Hogan can slip and slide to keep a match, to keep a world championship match. And then I forgot exactly what he said, but made some reference to basically being more slick than Bill Clinton when it comes to how many girlfriends he actually has. I chuckled. Then it says, Sting, who doesn't really speak, but, has a general gripe too. And then he talks about Hall, who won World War III in November, who's supposed to receive a title shot, says he has a legitimate claim to a championship match. So he calls all three men out. Piper says, yes, Hall, you are the rightful number one contender. You do deserve a title shot, and I respect you for what you did. You do deserve to have that first shot at the world champion. He says, but you have to take a step to the side because there is no world champion. So he says what they're going to do. He says, Hogan, yeah, you're Mr. 1, 2, 3. You want the title handed right back to you. He understands why, but you're not getting that. He even tried to dupe Hogan, oh, yeah. And they're like, no, he's not going to just give it back to Hogan. Although, in reality, Hogan won fair and square. If you really want to be serious, Hogan won fair and square at Starrcade. So he did kind of deserve the championship. But of course, he's nWo, so WCW, we gotta play it up, where it was a fuck finish. In reality, the only fuck finish was Bret Hart restarting it and then Sting winning. But, that was how they were building it at the time, was, they're trying to screw Sting and then the nWo in their pesky ways. But in this case, the nWo was actually the ones in the right. So he says that Hogan is going to fight Sting at Super Bowl. He doesn't care if it takes all night. These two are going to fight. And Hogan's like, I got the 3 count. Grabs at the belt. Sting gets in his face. Hogan backs up. Crowd, oh, yeah, Sting. And he calls for Hall. And Hall's just kind of like, nope. Hall gets out of the ring and leaves. So Hogan gets out of the ring. And he's like, that belt's mine. And Piper's like, yeah, you said, tradition bites. Well, tradition just bit you in the ass. And Hogan's, we gotta find out what's up with Hall, man. Problems in nWo land. And this would just continue on, even past Super Bowl with Hall getting his title shot. Hogan's thinking it should be his, into Savage getting a title shot, so on and so forth. It would continue on for a long time after this, which would eventually lead to the breakup with the Wolfpack and the nWo Black and White being their own separate entities. So, yeah. We knew we would get Sting versus Hogan come Super Brawl and whatever. Booker T versus Rick Martel for the World Television Championship. Both men feeling each other out at the beginning of this match. A very ground-based type match, very scientific. Booker T and Rick Martel just kind of wrestling each other. Rick Martel, he's got control of Booker T. Booker T's trying to build momentum. Booker T gets caught into I think he called it the Quebec crab or something like that. Booker T does not tap, but Rick Martel starts celebrating because Booker T gets to the ropes and Martel's celebrating like he just won. Booker T makes a comeback. Ends up hitting him with the Harlem Hangover. 1, 2, 3. Booker T retains the television championship. After the match, Saturn attacks Rick Martel, and he had attacked him on Night, or I think it was Thunder too, putting him through a plexiglass window. Booker T comes in for the save. Of course, these two men showed each other respect. Martel hands him the belt. They shake hands. But not long after this, just before Super Brawl, it's supposed to be Booker T versus Saturn. Instead, we get Martel versus Booker T, and then Booker T versus Saturn. Anyways, Martel was supposed to win the television championship and retain it, setting up him winning both matches, but Martel ends up turning heel, winning the title, hurting himself in that night, and then Martel really doesn't do nothing after. And this was during Martel's big comeback and was looking pretty damn good. So that's kind of just how that went with them afterwards. Which leads to another match. I chuckled during the introductions to this, and then I also felt sad. I felt sad when I saw Scott Hall because he had Louis Spicolli, who was a decent wrestler, was like the protege of Scott Hall, who was actually supposed to wrestle Larry Zbyszko, I think at Super Brawl, who passed away. So I felt sad seeing that. Then you get Larry Zbyszko, who, when they introduced him, hyped him up to be like better than Ric Flair. Ooh, the man who's won over 5,000 matches. What? No way he won 5,000 matches. No way. 20-plus year career and a 2-time former heavyweight champion of the world in the dying AWA, and was given the title because they were desperate. Not knocking on Larry Zbyszko, okay? I had a best of the best countdown of best wrestlers of the 80s. I was going to consider him because he did win a lot of championships. I'm just saying, WCW hyped this man up to be this living legend, and in actuality, Larry Zbyszko wasn't nothing outside of AWA. I'm just being real, okay? Haters can hate me, but it's the truth. He wasn't really a big deal outside of the AWA. I'm just speaking logic, guys. But anyways, this match, a wrestling match, Zbyszko trying to wrestle very old school, talking about tradition. I'm sorry, Larry Zbyszko to me was not a very good commentator, not a great wrestler, just didn't jive with me, even as a kid. But Hall's wrestling him, really like taking it to him. Zbyszko, of course, fighting back. He even counters the outsider's edge. Both men are brawling. The ref ends up getting kicked by Scott Hall. Like, I jumped through most of this match because a lot of this match was just a lot of rest holds, a lot of slow build, and it was just tough. I don't mind a match or two, but most of the matches, that's what it was tonight. Very slow build. That was what WCW was, very pure wrestling. Not till I think they hit like late 99, 2000, they changed it up, and then that kind of hurt WCW because it was different than WWF. And them doing what they did, changing it, kind of messed up. Like, yeah, it's slow today because I'm so used to the fast-paced offense of what you get now. But, I appreciated it, and when they changed it, it killed it. But anyways, Hall goes aside, decides to play possum. He goes to pull a move on to Zbyszko, ends up getting hit with a front chancery. So he's in that. Spicolli comes in. Dream jumps in, starts giving him the bionic elbows, and he's doing his dance, and, Hall's just, and Hall gets grabbed by Zbyszko. He's holding him. He goes for another elbow. Hall ducks. Zbyszko's hit with the bionic elbow. He does it like he was just killed. And he's dancing, and the announcer's like, oh, now he's really going to get Hall, and he's, like, undoing his shirt, and like, oh, my gosh, Hall's really going to get it, and he takes the shirt off, and it takes him like 15 seconds to notice he's wearing an nWo shirt. And they're like, what's happening? Like, they really oversold this. Like, Dusty was just my God, we lost Dusty Rhodes, a commentator, to the nWo. The war is over, everybody. The war is over. Dusty ends up elbowing Zbyszko, giving him the win via disqualification. Afterwards, they just continue to beat up Zbyszko, and they leave the ring, and, Dream, as he's walking away, says, this is tradition, WCW, bite me, and walks away from the ring, and he becomes the manager of Hall and Nash for a short time. I loved the way they they kept selling this like, oh, this crowd just doesn't know how to react. I mean, he brought this crowd alive, and then he did this. Like, how'd they get to him? Money. He was told. What was he doing? Sitting on commentary talking about tradition all the time. Maybe he was bored. I don't know. I mean, to be truthful, no one saw Dusty Rhodes being with nWo. But Dusty Rhodes was stale. Come on. God rest his soul, okay? God rest his soul. He was stale at that point, even on commentary, with his button-up blue jean shirt and his stupid WCW hat that's yellow. Come on, man. Come on, let's be honest. But even going into the next match, which was Conan, Scott Norton, and Buff Bagwell versus the Steiner brothers and Ray Taylor, who had DiBiase with them. Even going into that match, the story of that match was not what was going on in the ring, even though there was a good story behind it. It was still about, Mike Tenay, Bobby Heenan's, just talking like, well, Tony Schiavone's just with his back to the crowd, facing the curtains. He's still reeling from what happened, and he's making it out like, oh, Dusty Rhodes, man, he was just so WCW, and he was the heart and soul of WCW. Like, that's not exactly what he said, but that's how they act. I live next to him. Our kids play each other. I'm curious, how old was Cody Rhodes in 1998? I'm gonna Google search this. I'm curious. When was Cody Rhodes born? Because I'm curious. I know he wasn't playing
Cody Rhodes was born on June 30th, 1985.
Okay, so he was about 13 years old. Okay. How old are Tony Schiavone's kids? I'm curious. I gotta look at this, okay? Noah Anthony. Tony Schiavone's not even his real name. Noah Anthony. Okay. Which I am a big fan of him. Let's not get this. He's got 5 children. Okay, so I don't know, it's possible. Oh gosh, his wife was much younger than him. Holy crap. That is insane. I have to admit though, Tony Schiavone, I don't know if you guys can see this. This was just a recent picture. He looks pretty good for, 61? Holy crap. Tony's still a young-looking guy. He probably looks healthier now than he did then. Probably on that DDP yoga stuff. But yeah, like they played it up. Oh, Tony's come out here. He's talking to the back. That was one of my favorite things about Tony Schiavone. How he would talk to the backstage people. Like he'd say a name like, okay, Emily, I need Mike out here, Emily. And he'd respond like she was talking to him. Okay, thank you. In WWF, it would just be, oh, I'm receiving backstage word, but then they would never actually, they'd never reference Kevin Dunn. That's what I loved about Tony Schiavone, the type of shit he brought to the table. Or he talked to the person who was backstage as a producer. Little things like that meant a lot. Little things like that, were awesome. So they had Tony Schiavone come out there, and Schiavone's just trying to, I can't believe, Dusty would do this and blah, blah, blah. Like, they just kept going on and on. He's like, okay, we're just going to get through this. I got a job to do. I just loved the realism Tony Schiavone. I'm making fun of him, but Tony Schiavone brought a realism to it, and I did. I genuinely enjoyed it. But as far as the actual match, this match was built around the fact that Rick and Scott were having issues. Ray Taylor had just left the nWo, and he didn't trust Rick or Scott, and neither did Rick. Scott was acting differently. He was more, I want in the ring, and I'm going to be the guy to get the wins, and he was very aggressive. And then Bobby's like, maybe the guy just really wants to win. Makes sense, right? Just really wants to win a match. So Scott and Ray couldn't get along. They're on the apron, and Ray's like, look, it's my corner, get to your corner. And he's like, no, and he's just standing there moving back and forth, just trying to get that tag. Rick's getting worked on. It was a big man match. There was a lot of big dudes in this match. Kind of a slow, methodical type pace. Rick and Ray Taylor, who, if you guys don't know who Ray Taylor is the big boss man, okay? Another man who, really looking back at this show, a lot of people who've passed away. Oh, it's so morbid now. Like, I'm watching this, and just, Mean Gene, JJ, Ray Taylor, Ted, Dusty, Louis Spicolli, I believe Rick Martel's passed away. Macho Man Randy Savage. Luger's not really in good health. Scott Hall, he's, could be anywhere. Just, it's really kind of sad now that I'm looking back at it. I saw some pictures of Saturn, and Saturn just is, like, not really the most healthy guy either. Like, he looks horrible. I don't know. That guy's, like, homeless. I don't know. If y'all don't know, check out Perry Saturn. Dude's homeless nowadays. That's so sad. He's a homeless man. I don't understand it. It's really sad. But, Rick goes to make the hot tag. Ray Taylor's got his arm out. Scott's got his arm out. It looks like Ray got it, but Scott goes into the ring, clears house, ends up hitting the Steiner screwdriver for the 3 count, and afterwards he's like having a pose off with Buff, and Ray and Ted are, what's that all about? What is this conversation about? Because he's not like fighting him, he's just like conversating with him, which they don't like. This did, however, lead to the eventual heel turn of Scott Steiner and the birth of Big Papa Pump, which is the same gimmick and character that he's still using now. He's not changed. In all these years, Big Papa Pump is still the same thing. If you can believe, ladies and gentlemen. It's amazing. This is where we get to the part of the show. Kind of scary. I'm still not entirely sure if it was a work or shoot or work shoot. But Kevin Nash versus the Giant, of course, the Big Show, which was one of the 3 main events. There was 3 main events for the show, but this was the only match that they really hyped, like in that opening packet. That's what they hyped for the show, was this one. Super, super slow match. The crowd was dead a good majority of this match. Just a lot of kicks, a lot of punches, a lot of big boots, and Nash putting his foot in the ropes and trying to choke out Big Show, and just kind of stuff like that. But then Nash does try some athletic stuff. He tries doing a leapfrog over the Big Show. He even tries doing a suicide dive to the outside. He kind of just his legs are so long. He gets over, but then his leg gets caught and goes down. Thankfully, Big Show catches him, doesn't let him fall. Big Show, a strong dude, picks him back up and then slams him into the post on this ring. Hogan, as Nash is back in the ring, Hogan comes back, hits. Hogan was out there. Hogan just stealing the spotlight. Hogan ends up hitting Giant with the chair. Giant barely getting back into the ring. Double boot, both men are down. Giant starts building momentum, gives a leg drop, or gives a big boot, mocks Hogan, sets up for the chokeslam. Bischoff gets on the apron. He gets a chokeslam. Nash grabs this big pot of coffee, throws it in Giant's face like, oh my God, you can see the steam coming off that thing. And you honestly can't. Then low blows the Giant, sets him up for the jackknife powerbomb, gets him almost up and then drops him on his head. He looked like he hurt his neck, but when you really go back and look, he landed tight on his shoulder. Like, I'm sure he strained his neck, but then they made it like Giant's neck's broke. Nash just kind of lays over him, gets the 3 count, and he wins the match. And then Giant would go on like a month and a half, 2 months, not wrestling, wouldn't have a rematch with Nash. They would make it this big deal. It just became like, it almost became ridiculous. They banned the jackknife powerbomb. Oh, we don't need people's necks. You're going to get fined. But Nash still used it. He's like, fuck it. I got Hogan's money. Hogan's going to pay for my shit. And Hogan be like, dude, hit your jackknife, brother. I got you. Okay? It was silly. But it did look like in real time, like Giant landed on his head and broke his neck. It did not look like Brock Lesnar dropping Holly on his head, but it looked pretty nasty. But man, this match was just slow. Like, it was such a slow match. And, it was funny. We got to the next match, and I forgot that there was still a match after this. I'm about to like pack and come in here and start recording. I'm like, oh fuck, there's still a third match. But yeah, next up was Bret the Hitman Hart versus Ric Flair. They were building this up as two former world champions. Firstly, and I don't talk about this enough, Bret in WCW was horrific. I came into watching wrestling. I watched a little bit in the late 80s, early 90s, and I remember, a little bit, like I can remember a little bit about what happened. But, I saw Bret for the first time. I just thought he was just a guy in the mid-card who wrestled for the U.S. title. I didn't know he was as big as he was. So I started going back and rewatching, like, holy fuck, Bret was a world champion, did this, did that. Why the hell did he ever leave? And I learned about the contract and Vince saying, oh, Bret, I can't pay you. Had Bret just waited, I don't know, 4 or 5 more months, he probably could have paid him double what he offered him. Like, it could have been better, greener pastures. But Bret in WCW was just bad. Like, it started off good. They had the plan of, Bret, going a year and fighting everybody and making it to the championship, by the next Starrcade. That was initially, like, the plan. But, politics happened, and then nothing really went. But these guys, they wrestled a very old school match to start. Tony Schiavone talking about, Ric Flair, the former 13-time world champion. Bret Hart, a 5-time World Wrestling Federation champion. Brings it up, talks about WWF. WCW or WWF wasn't doing that stuff. No way they would have brought that stuff up. Still won't to this day. Rick works on Bret's legs. Like, I didn't take a lot of notes because a lot of this was just hold and counter to hold. It was just a lot of wrestling. That's what these two men were known for. So yeah, Rick's working on Bret's leg. Bret gets put into the figure 4. Bret reverses it. Rick just fighting to keep control of this match. Bret takes some chops from Rick and just keeps going. He's starting to, get momentum. They fight some more. Eventually, Bret gets the advantage after like a suplex and his, side Russian leg sweep, and his big moves, hits those, gets Ric Flair in a sharpshooter, and Ric Flair actually taps. Ric Flair putting over Bret Hart in a big way, which he's done before, no big deal. But Bret Hart goes over. This was a fantastic match. It was a very good wrestling match. I mean, if you love wrestling, this is your match. This is the match that you want. And it was everything you could have wanted in a wrestling match. But then, yeah, like I said, Bret just went on to do what? From that point on, he had this, big angle in the main event of Starrcade with the biggest match in WCW's history with Hogan and Sting, to wrestling Ric Flair in a semi-main event match. And then just slowly dwindled. Yeah, they gave him the United States Championship, put him in a match with Sting, but then he just didn't do nothing. And then the tragedy with Owen happened, and the angle with Goldberg where he's, oh, I quit, and it got ridiculous with him. So, I mean, for the effort that they gave for that, where'd it go? What did it lead to? Nothing, really. Just, excuse me. So it's main event time. I can't believe they brought Michael Buffer in for this. Yes, Michael Buffer. Let's get ready to rumble! New World Order. And here came out Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth, who weren't even married at the time. They were putting these two together just for nostalgia reasons at this point. It was pretty bad. I've heard some reports that during that time they didn't get along, but, Savage didn't trust no one else to really have her as a manager. But she became Lux's manager because they were all friends. And so Luger came out, Savage came out. Luger chases Savage to the aisleway. I forgot this match was supposed to happen. This was a less than 10-minute match. Liz hits him from behind. Savage takes the advantage. They just kind of brawl. They're brawling. There's no real wrestling to this match. It's just a brawl, and not even a good brawl. Hall comes down. And look, before I go on, the thing that most people noticed about WCW at the time, as good as it was, the thing that really, I think, drew fans in were the big names, yes. But the cruiserweight matches and the mid-card matchups were what really made the company look good. Yes, you had the big names. The storylines with the nWo were compelling. But the main event matches with the big names were usually shit. These guys were getting paid millions of dollars, and they never really put on good matches. Like, even when Russo came in, it just got worse. Like, and every main event, whether it was a Nitro, a Thunder, or pay-per-view, always had a fuck finish. So in that aspect, I think that's part of the reason WCW eventually went down, because it was just the same thing. Well, it worked here, let's do it again. But it kept being repetitive, and it never really fully fleshed itself out. So, eventually people were just like, fuck, dude! Fuck! This sucks! Got a message. Doo-doot! Uh-oh. My girlfriend messaged me, guys. Oh, she's not feeling good, guys. Yeah, she's not feeling good. She's had a migraine all day. And we're dieting. And it's going good. So she's not feeling great. Work and everything. You know how things go. But, yeah, just stuff like that. It just doesn't ever... It never... I think it killed the company eventually. And this was another match. Hall comes down with the chair. Here comes Hogan. Hogan got to put his face in the main event, brother. Savage gets distracted. Gets put into the torture rack. He taps. And then Hogan gets in the ring, attacks Luger. And then here comes the rest of the nWo. Then here comes Sting to come out, and he starts fighting with Hogan. Luger and Sting clear up the ring, and that's pretty much how the show goes up. And it's like, Tony Schiavone during this whole thing, here comes Sting! They're clearing out the ring! WCW stands on top! And I'm just like, okay, I'm over-exaggerating. I can't hit down the Tony Schiavone, or Mike Tenay, or Heenan, but the way they just all acted was hysterical. Like, just every time, Sting would come out and when Luger would take it, they just got so amped up. Kind of like I am right now. Let me digress. Let me calm myself down. Let me calm. Zen. But that was WCW nWo Sold Out. And this led to Sting going to the main event at Super Bowl and beating Hogan and then going on to hold the championship for a month. About 2 months. And then losing the championship to Savage for Savage to lose the belt back to Hogan. That was what their plan was. Then the plan was supposed to be Hogan to hold it until Brett came for it. But again, Hogan gave the belt to Hogan because, brother, Goldberg's the money. Well, that was Savage. Let me tell you something, brother. Goldberg's the moneymaker, man. We gotta go there, brother. I don't know. I'm horrible at impressions. But thank you guys. Man, that tore up my throat. Thank you guys very much for joining me today. So yeah, those are the programming updates for you guys. This was your Retro Rewind. I'm pretty sure this is episode 3 or 4. I'm pretty sure 4. So, thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, hit that like button. You guys can support the channel by doing any other things. Twitter, Patreon, Facebook, TeePublic, buy a t-shirt. StreamLabs, you guys can go and support us on StreamLabs. Discord, just join us there. Or you can just like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and then share this video. That helps out a lot. So, thank you guys. I am Zach. I am done for the day. And I will see all of you guys on Monday for the Rock Classic review. And for my Patreon members, we'll see you guys for Monday morning. Creative. Yeah, that's it. I will see y'all, I guess soon. So yeah, thanks guys, and I will see you soon. I know my girlfriend's messaging me. So, music's playing out. Should have hit it sooner. Bye-bye! Yesterday!